What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? Well, not all ages, because this is the raw and unscripted show with Christopher Rausch, daytime edition. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday. It's 2:00 here in sunny Southern California. I just got back from an incredible walk with my wife and my son and my dog. And I got to tell you, if you're not doing it, if you're not getting outside and getting some fresh air every day, hopefully you have some sunshine in your part of the world. It's truly a lifesaver. People have been asking me a lot lately, like, how are you getting through this? You're such a high energy guy. You've got so much going on. What do you do to kind of find a way to break it all down and kind of just make sure you take care of yourself? And honestly, it's getting outside. It's getting outside, getting fresh air. We take a little Beats speaker with us, and we're constantly listening to music. We're laughing. We're talking about stuff as a family. So it's really great. I mean, you got to get outside. If you're not, educated in supplements and things of that nature, if you're feeling down and depressed and dark, if you're not getting outside or you're not taking vitamin D supplements, this isn't a show about supplements, but just entertaining you guys for a second. But if you don't take vitamin D and you're not getting outside and getting sunshine, that can cause depression. That can weigh heavily into the fact of having those dark thoughts and those dark moments. So even just getting outside for 10 minutes a day, just make sure you're doing it. Take some water with you. Like I said, take a speaker, listen to your favorite playlist. Obviously social distancing is huge. So when my wife and I are walking, we always make sure we keep our distance, to protect others and protect ourselves, which is something that we all should be doing. I have to tell you guys that yesterday I took a little road trip. I had to go out to Home Depot and get some screen for our window screens because of this little guy. Look who just showed up. Say hi, Whiskers. Say hi, Whiskers. This is Whiskers. This is my new kitty. We call him the Pokey Kitty. He's a very pokey kitty. Say hi, Whiskers. So Whiskers has been scratching all of our screens so we couldn't open the windows and get fresh air. All right, buddy. So Whiskers likes to hang out here in my studio off to the side, got a window open. So he likes to chill and just check things out. He was a stray. So he was an alley cat, but he's a domesticated alley cat. So he came up to our door and knocked on the doors. I want to Facebook and this live platform that I've been broadcasting on has been having its glitches. So apologize in advance if something happens with the program, but they sent us an email this morning or yesterday stating that if you use StreamYard, which is what we're using, and you combine it with Facebook, sometimes there's been having issues because so many people are obviously doing these online things and they're contributing to you guys, and there's the internet bandwidth and stuff like that. So it's really been hit or miss. So hopefully it will continue to broadcast here. Do me a favor, give me a shout out in the comment section. Let me know you're here, and just let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you're, and be honest. I've got people messaging me privately, morning, noon, and night, saying, hey, Chris, I'm doing great. Thanks a lot. Some people are coming back and saying, hey, man, I'm struggling. And that's why we bring you this. That's why all of us, whether it's my panel or whatever it is I'm doing, or Eric Swanson's doing, or Glenn, or Joe, or Ken, or Sherry, or Pam, anybody that you've seen me associated with recently, we are all just bringing our hearts, bringing our souls to you guys, because we're going to get through this. And our point, all of us collectively and individually, our point is that we want to serve. We want to make this an opportune time for you guys to have positive influences in your life every single day, so that that you have somebody to count on. You have people to count on. You have a place to go instead of the news. I've been saying this a lot lately. Hey, Nina, what's up? What's up? Hey, Andrew Gibson. Hello from Scotland. Hey, my wife's family's from Scotland. They went to Scotland a couple of years ago. Fantastic. Awesome. Good to have you here. I apologize. I got to get rid of these notifications. I get a lot of notifications that keep passing across my screen. But anyways, we're coming here to serve you. We're trying to make this a collaborative a situation with you guys. The technology is phenomenal. And, that's why we're here. So if you have questions, you have comments, and you have things that are going on, we really want you to reach out to us either privately or publicly, and because we're all going through it. People have asked me, like, you seem so positive, you seem so upbeat, you seem so, everything. But quite honestly, I have my moments too. I have my moments where if I start thinking down the road too far, I can get in this black hole, this abyss of negative thoughts and negative energies, and just be like, what am I supposed to do? What's going to happen? I see all my friends going through this, and I'm a very empathic person. So I start to take on other people's pain. I'm like, okay, let me solve that person's problem. Let me solve this person's problem. But I can't. And that's one thing as a very empathic person, is that we have to find a way to cut a little bit of that, because otherwise I'll try to save the world. And I was trying to save the world before, but now I'm just trying to not save the world, but just inspire the world and get the world to think a little bit differently about who they are, think about their past, present, and future differently, so that they, have a kick-ass life. They have that unstoppable life. They have tools in their toolbox that they can look to and go for when they have those times where they're challenged, whether it be taking a walk with some music, sitting down with a good book, watching a YouTube video, whatever it is that might be your form of distraction. And I look at it as positive distraction. I'm waiting for my guest to get on here in just a few minutes. But in the meantime, I'm seeing people distracting themselves, and they're doing it a lot with Netflix. I'm seeing people doing some things that are cool to distract yourself. But most importantly, and the one thing I really want to emphasize to you guys out there, is this is a time like no other. This is a time for resourcefulness. This is a time for really getting in the moment and really realizing what you're made of, really seeing what it is that you could bring to the table. And like Grant Cardone said the other day, it was perfectly stated. He says, you're going to have to outcreate everybody else. And that's really, at first, I'll be honest with you, I kind of got, oh God, this is going to be a fight, and this is going to be a struggle, and everybody's going to be going for the same clients and the same this and the same that. But honestly, it's just an opportune time for you to, yes, watch Netflix and do those things to make sure that you're keeping your sanity and you're keeping yourself up during these times. But at the same time, really set aside a couple of hours a day, 3 hours a day, where you're focused on what it is that you can do. What is it that you can do that's new and creative and inspiring, and whatever it is, so that you can come out of this financially and physically and mentally and spiritually better. I realize that's a tall order, but that's something that I'm working on with the people that, see me influenced with or see me sharing the screen with. So we have to do that as a community. That's how we rise together. I'll self-admit, I used to be the lone wolf. I didn't need people. I was going to do everything myself. But there is an amazing beauty when you find your tribe. And, you obviously, I look different, I sound different, I talk different than a lot of the motivational speakers or whatever you want to call us in the personal development field. But, you just got to bring what you bring, and the uniqueness that you bring it. There's 7 billion people on the planet. 7 billion. I just got probably 30 friend requests in the last 3 days from Scotland, from India, from some countries I can't even pronounce. That's cool. That's cool. I just did a presentation to a mastermind in India last week or the week before, and just met so many phenomenal people. So there are people out there for you. Don't be worried that there's not going to be enough. Don't look at it with a scarcity mindset and a lack mindset, because guess what? Your subconscious is going to find ways to make that true. And so I just really encourage you guys to make sure that you are looking at things differently. Dr. Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Let me say that again. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So if you look at your future as like, oh my God, how am I going to survive? What am I going to do? That's a good starter, because pain is a great version of leverage. But at the same time, you have to say, okay, what is it that I'm going to take responsibility for? How am I going to be proactive on this? What am I going to do? You guys have heard me talk about it this week, but if you're new listening to this, if you're one of my new friends that have just signed on recently, I implore you to make sure that you are taking time to figure out how you're going to come out of this, whether it's a dog shit picking up the business, you're mowing lawns, you're starting a new business, you're crocheting stuff, whatever it is. You guys have heard me talk about it, meals. You have to be creative. You have to find your way to come out of this, because nobody's going to bail you out. And that's the thing, is that you're going to have to find new and resourceful ways to get up earlier, to fight harder, blood, sweat, and tears. That's what you're going to need to do. So if you're watching Netflix and you're bored and you're trying to find things to do, you have the wrong mindset. You have to be focusing on this, is that how am I going to come out of this? And more importantly, if you still have a job, or you're going to have a job once this comes back, I implore you is to make sure that you are the most valuable person on your team. You're the most valuable person on the company's team, because that's what's going to be one of the breaking points, whether or not you're able to stay on the payroll or not. And I'll just be frank with you. I know a lot of people who own businesses and have employees, and I've talked to them, and it's pretty depressing. I've heard people crying, grown men crying because of what they might have to do in order to keep the business afloat, and then hire those people back on later. So it may be a situation where you get dismissed, but I've talked to a lot of people like, I plan on keeping those people back. I had to lay them off so they could get unemployment, all these different things. But, you just have to be your best resource. What is it that you can bring? I used to tell my guys in the shipping department, I'm like, you guys are in the shipping department, but you may have some amazing creative ideas of how to get new customers, how to get new members, how to get new this. You guys have some ideas because your guys are on the front line. So what is it that maybe that speaks to you that will help, bring a new product or bring a new dynamic about this, something digital? Maybe your company's always been analog and, bricks and mortar. And this is a way, hey, I want to head up the digital vision of, working out online or whatever it might be. I'm just trying to get you guys to think differently because that's going to be paramount. Otherwise, those of you guys are sitting there, and I don't think I have anybody on my friends list, but when you sit there and get complacent, guess what? You're going to get complacency in your results. Now, I was just going to bring on my new friend, but he disappeared. So like I was saying before, in the last 2 weeks, I have made some incredible connections. I have met some incredible people who are inspiring to me, who are congruent, who are transparent, who are authentic, who are just bringing the value, bringing the goods. And one of those guys is Scott Goyette. He's a guy that I've known for a little bit. We are both on the Speaking to the Heart podcast network, and Scott is just a phenomenal guy. I got a chance to talk to him on the phone a couple of days ago. And you ever had those times where you meet somebody and you just have that energy, you feel like you're on the same page, you like share a brain? Well, Scott's one of those guys. And I have to be honest, I don't know much about him, but we're going to get to know him today together. And I think that's the way we do this is in community. So let me go ahead and play with this a little bit. Scott, what's up? How you doing?
What's going on? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can see you. Technology is working so far, so good. We got our names on the screen. It's good. How are you doing, brother?
Dude, I'm doing good. I've been enjoying the new working from home with the kid at home. My wife just did a remote yoga retreat, a virtual yoga retreat. And earlier than that, I had some calls. My kid's been running around. So it's interesting. It's good, right?
Yeah, it is. And I think I feel bad for saying that. I mean, I was going to ask you this question also, is that sometimes I feel bad for being so positive because I'm not trying to make light of other people's situations. I mean, somebody brought something to my heart the other day that really broke my heart. And they said, I said, this is a great time for parents to bond with kids and have that, all those irreplaceable moments. And they said, what about the kids who have terrible parents? What about the kids who live at home with parents that don't pay attention to them? What about parents like my mom was in some respects? And immediately I was just like, oh my God, these poor kids don't get a break. They don't get to go to school. They don't get, school lunches and all that. And I just broke my heart again. But how are you handling this? And what things are you saying to your people to keep their spirits lifted, but not be like, okay, rose colored glasses kind of thing?
That's a beautiful question. And let me preface real quick too, because I don't know how much I explained to you about what I did in the past. So I have an organization called Go Love Now, and we teach kids about love, compassion, and kindness, and primarily self-love. So if we're sitting here in a school teaching a kid to love themselves, but they've never had that demonstrated at home, it's a nightmare. And so when I go to schools that are in certain parts of town where parents might more likely than not be working 2 jobs, never home, the kids are walking the streets, those are the kids that I'm worried about right now. And, to your point, that's a really good question, because I don't want to fully promote positivity and say that just be positive, because that's not reasonable. But I think what we need to do at some point is show the self-love to ourselves so much and just be the light. And in hopes that what's going to come from that is those kids' parents will see a talk like this. They'll have a friend of a friend who sees a talk like this. And I know that seems almost powerless sometimes, and it can be a nightmare because, you're an empath. We're empaths. We talked about that. When you see something wrong, you want to dive in and fix it. Like you walk by something going on, you want to run over and fix it. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned through teaching others is love yourself so much that you're so bright that we're having calls like this, we're having talks like this, that these messages spill over. And we have an opportunity to do that right now, because while we're quarantined, we've got the phone, we've got the internet, we've got so many opportunities to connect with people, and I see it happening. So when I'm sitting here looking at this situation thinking, this can be a nightmare for anybody, be a nightmare for those kids, can be a nightmare for people. It's such an amazing opportunity, and I think people are taken by the horns and running with it. I really do.
Oh, beautifully said. Tell me more about how you got started doing Go Love Now with the kids. What prompted that?
So I'm also a business professor. And one of the things I did about 13 years ago when I started is I was asking the kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? And typically the kids would say, I want to be a CEO. I want to open my own business. I want to be this, that. Very quick to explain what they wanted to do. Fast forward 10 years into the future, about 3 years ago, kids started saying things like, I don't know, maybe I might, it's possible I'll do this, I'll do that. But they had no specific directive. And what I realized that really was that was a lack of love, and they didn't believe in themselves anymore. So I wanted to find a way to encourage, empower, and teach kids to love themselves more, because what was happening in the world, you see a lot of bullying, a lot of disconnect, a lot of divide. That's just a reflection of our self-love. And so I went into schools and we were offering these, big, events where we're going and we're teaching kids how to love themselves more. What I found out, and I mentioned this to you briefly the other day, is when we go into schools and we teach kids about self-love, kindness, compassion, we're also working with them on emotions and emotional management. So we bring them to a heightened sense of emotions with great intention. So they might have a great deal of shame that surfaces after our event, or a great deal of fear or anger or sadness. And that's with great intent, because we follow up and we work with them afterwards. What I found out is the kids don't need it as much as the adults.
Mm-hmm.
The adults are the bigger problem, and the kids are just watching them as their role models. If we could get to the adults more quickly, the kids are going to be fine. And a lot of the kids are picking this up on their own. So for instance, when I was going into the schools doing these programs, what ends up happening is the kids love it. They open up emotionally. They're ready to work with me. And then the school says, check. It's a checklist item. You did your big event, and they don't want to do the follow-up. Yeah. So the same thing is we've got right now. Somebody listens to this and there's an awakening. If they don't follow up, if they don't do coaching, if they don't look more deeply in themselves, it's just one more bit of noise. And so we've got to do the deep work. We talk about this all the time. I mean, this isn't rocket science, but we almost want to hear the solution, then do nothing about
it. Bravo, man. Bravo.
Right?
Yes. I hear that all the time. Like, but that sounds like a lot of work. And I'm like, well, do you want the results? I mean, taking a one pill or taking a 1 day class and trying to make $1 million, that's ridiculous. You have to do the work. And what the beautiful thing is, as you know, when you do the work and you get to that, I have a graphic that sits in front of me. It's like these two guys digging for gold and the one guy gives up. I'm sure you've seen it. I keep it right in front of me because I'm like,
I love it.
You never know. You just got to, and I'm living
that little slice.
Living proof. But yeah, people are just like, oh my God, that sounds like a lot of work. I don't know if I'm up for it. I'm like, are you up for the results of sitting there, 70 years old with a bunch of regrets in your life because you sat there and listened to what everybody told you should do? I'm like, come on. Yeah, do the work. I mean, that's where you got to soar. I mean, Steve Harvey, I think you were talking about, that video I've been telling everybody to go watch it. Steve Harvey, jump. It's like 1.5 minutes. It's like, yeah, go jump. You have to. It's going to hurt. You're going to get banged up. But guess what? Your parachute's going to open. You're going to soar. You're going to figure it out. You figured it out to this part of life, right?
Yeah, of course. No, and the other thing too is like, and we talk about this all the time. It's not the destination, it's the journey. People have this illusion. Well, if the whole journey is work, that doesn't sound like fun. And so I get that. I can hear that. I hear the kids say that. But here's the thing. Anytime you do anything that feels like work at first, eventually doesn't become work. What was the first day you ever picked up a weight and all the other guys are lifting tons of weights and you went into the weight room and the seniors are benching 315 and you felt embarrassed doing the bar? That's a day that sucks. That's work. But then when you're benching 315 and you're catching the touchdown in the end zone or you're hitting the 3-pointer, it's all part of the game. No one wants to do the work. No one wants to do the practice, but everybody wants the glory. And here's the deal. The journey can and will be beautiful if you just love yourself first. It really isn't rocket science. Love yourself enough to do the work, to enjoy the work, to have fun in the work, and to build something beautiful because you're beautiful. That's it. It's not genius.
So Scott, and thank you for sharing that, because from your position, from coaching and everything, and from what I know about you, and that's the purpose of this call, is to get to know one another and share it with everybody else. What do you say to those people? Because I mean, a lot of these people are adults and they've gone through their conditioning process. They have their beliefs, they're closed-mindedness. They don't feel like they're worth anything. What suggestions do you have for them? Like when they're looking at, like, I don't want to go to therapy, I hate therapists. What are some key ingredients that they could do on their own to try to come out of that and really realize that they are supposed to be number one? It's like one of my paramount things when I coach somebody, I find out, do you believe that you're the most important person on the planet? And they're like, well, no, my kids, my husband, my mom. And I'm like, no. You're the most important person in this planet. It's not about being selfish. It's about taking care of yourself and being the best version of yourself so you can be the best version for the people you love. And when I say it like that, or in a roundabout way, they're like, oh man, I never really thought about that. But for what works for you, for the people that are watching and listening?
So, what I can share real quick is, so the Go Love Now program has two models. We have the love and the fear model. And I'll share a little bit about the love model because that'll answer this question. So the love model is listen, observe, voice, and empathize. And listening has a two-way street. It's listening to your inner voice, listening to your intuitive self, your connection to creator or whatever your beliefs are, and then listening to those trying to serve you. So somebody like ourselves, we're sitting here, doing this event. We're trying to make sure that people get this information. Both parts matter. Listen to yourself, listen to others. The O is observe. You've got to observe how you're feeling in any given day. There's days where you can put your all in. There's days you can't. I mean, there's days you feel horrible. Welcome to humanity. That happens to all of us. We want to observe and not be passive observers. We want to be active observers, because a lot of people say, oh, I see that, but I couldn't do anything. There's always something you could have done. Put your neck out a little bit, get scared, try something. You'll be blown away by the opportunities, results that come from that. The V in love is voice. And that's listening to the inner voice that you think is you talking back to you. Your identity was created by somebody else long ago. As human beings, we're not lions. We don't jump out and roar and we're a lion. We come out very feeble, and people are building us into humans. So all that identity that's come to be, that's saying, don't do that. You're not good enough. You're not as strong as your brother. You're not that smart. It's not your voice. It's the identity of everybody who came before you, giving you this fictitious identity, and you have the opportunity to build your own. That's where people lose themselves right there. They say, I just can't. And they're hearing old voices. Now, here's where the opportunity comes. So there's other people out there who have rebuilt their identity, like you or me, who are doing it all day long. My identity is fluid. It's going to grow. Today, it's going to change. So I'm a little shaky because balance it's not me standing still. It's me constantly. So I'm shaky because my identity, my foundation is going to shift today. And that's awesome because I'm going to grow. So when we look at voice, listen to those trying to serve you. The final piece, which isn't rocket science, and we're finally starting to see it, is E, and that's empathy. We've got to be empathetic to all. So my answer to people would be to follow this love model. Listen closely to yourself. What do you really want? What is your brilliance? We know the educational system has screwed you. They've told you, become a doctor, become a business person, become a lawyer, become whatever. And we say, well, that's what I am. Till my death, that's what I am. But you can be so much more. There's no definitive, I have to be a lawyer, I have to be this, or I have to be that. You can be so much more, even outside your occupation, and people forget that. So when we're listening to inside and outside, start to fall into your brilliance. Observe those around you. We can heal from serving others. So you and I do it daily. We're doing it now. Like one of the things, like we could sit here and have a show one day and just talk about all our pain and how horrible all these things are and how we got through them. And it's going to serve other people going, me too, I'm in the same boat. And so that's a beauty. Active observer, serve and work with one another. And then the V, that voice, you can shift that voice so quickly by realizing that those words saying you can't are nothing but bullshit, period. It's a lie. It's literally a lie. We are infinite beings capable of anything. I don't know if you know this, but I think it's 50 million bytes. If I remember this, 50 million bytes, essentially 1/400% of our brain is being used in our consciousness. So in other words, when you and I are having this conversation right now, it's 1/400%. And I can get you stats on some scientist friends of mine who explain this to me. The rest of the brain is being used, but it's being used so when I pick up my arm, I don't tip over. So when I sit down, I don't just fall back, like keeping everything else in gear. So my consciousness is literally using nothing. But we have this amazing superpower, this full super consciousness. And what we don't do is we don't dare to dive into it. We're so scared of it that we think that we're nothing because we're sitting in this restricted zone of this massive supercomputer. And and that can be a show that we do later. We sit in beta waves and we sit barely in alpha in our awakening moments. When people meditate, they try to dive deep into delta and these places where you're in the super conscious. Why are we not doing that all the time? Why are we sitting in this small place saying we're not enough? It's just a lie. And that's what I tell people. You have no clue how powerful you are and you're fooling yourself.
Wow. That is powerful. I want to learn more about that. I've done stuff with binaural beats and radio frequencies and stuff like that. Introduced to that because of my ADD and everything. Like, okay, listen to these frequencies and kind of balance out your brain. And sometimes it seems like it works, and sometimes I'm like wondering if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But one thing I want to go back to is when you were talking about with the kids and everything and explaining the love analogy acronym. When you said it's about parents and about adults, in your experience in through those conversations and those with the schools and everything. How do you make the adults realize that it's them and not the kids, and to take that ownership and that responsibility to turn the finger this way and say, okay, it's not my kid who's being an asshole. It's me that's filling his head full of asshole thoughts. What experiences do you have with that? I'd be curious.
Yeah, and that's a great question. That's the $1 million question that I'm looking for the answer to as well, because I mean, you know as well as I do, it's the horse to water thing. If people aren't ready, they're not ready. So I can sit here and be the best speaker and do the best presentation, and everybody claps and everybody gets emotional, and 2 minutes later they're back to the behaviors. So first and foremost, the parents who show up for events or show up to talk to us are probably not the parents who need it. So we would literally have to go door to door knocking on doors. So the answer to that question is that's what we've got to figure out. And that goes back to the first thing we said when we started talking is becoming the light. Because who's connected to those people? Are the parents connected to those people? Could the kids come home and literally teach their parents? And my answer to that is yes. Think of this. When I sit down the first day of class and I talk to my students, I say, who's the least intelligent person in this room? And of course they look around and they look for the kid who looks like the stoner, and they want to point to somebody. I said, it's me. I said, it's me. And they said, well, how could it be you? You're the professor. And I said, listen to this. All right. I go, you guys are the closest to source. All right. You're 18, 19, 20 years old. A few of them might be older, 40, but for the most part, I'm the furthest away from source. Let's just say I live to be 100. I'm right in the middle. So that means I'm the most brainwashed I could possibly be, because I've been built up with this fictitious identity. I've created this belief of mistruths because we're listening to stuff and we just want to fill ourselves with the same, what's the word? When you just want to get, like, what is it? Confirmation bias. We just want to get in that same confirmation bias. We do it with our Facebook. We do it with everything else. We get to a point where I think that we've really just got to start realizing that we're our own worst enemies, especially as we get older. I tell the kids, you guys are literally closest to creators, so you have less to break down your identity and unlearn. If you start learning how to be a good person right now and grow and be willing to be wrong and be willing to learn, then you're going to be an amazing human being. So when they're getting all that negative in that voice and I teach them that love model and they go back into their homes, I truly believe that igniting their lights is the best thing that we could possibly do. And I don't know what more we can do. And I don't know if you're like me, but I literally went to a space where I haven't shared this with you, but I was about to travel around the world for a year and I had a TED Talk on this exact stuff. And I'm sitting on stage about to do this TED Talk. I've got colleges all over the world that I'm going to send this TED Talk to, and I want to go speak at these colleges, and I black out on stage. I was working
or just like mentally just went.
Both. I started, like, I didn't know where I was. Everyone said they were like, wow, this is amazing. And he did this perfect walk off stage thing and he's going to come back and it's going to be amazing. Everyone's waiting. And my wife's in the audience going, I don't think he's coming back. I took a few steps off and sat on the couch and just like fell, and they're bringing me like food and seeing if I'm all right. I had literally ignored everything that I ever teach. I had zero self-love. I was physically drained. I was mentally drained. I was trying to solve the problems that you were talking about. I was like, we have to get to the parents. I have to go worldwide. It's not enough in the US. I'm going to go to every college. I'm going to have this perfect TED Talk. Everything I do is going to be amazing. It's going to be perfect, perfect, perfect. I'm going to save the planet. Sounds familiar, right? Mm-hmm. So as we're talking here, hopefully, we can be, what's the word I'm looking for? Accountability coaches. Yeah. Accountability coaches to not do the same things that, because one of the things I tend to do is I get around so many successful people. I'm like, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. I love when a friend of mine says, dude, go have a beer and just shut up. I'm like, okay. Because I need to do that. Because these problems are going to be out there with or without us. So what we're trying to do, I think, is get the people who have come to the water, who are ready to receive, get them to maximize their light. And so in coaching, whatever, get the teachers to max out their light so much that they're so bright, that's going to go into that student and that's going to go into their house. And we're just going to light up the universe. But it can't come from us being perfect without any self-love. And I mean, man, I'm working on it. Like, that's my, I'm enjoying the journey, but sometimes I don't, because I get so excited about serving the planet that I don't serve myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, dude, that's so true. It's funny you mentioned that. One thing I want to ask before I forget, how did the TED Talk go? Because I'm sure you went back on stage, right?
They wouldn't let me come back.
No,
because I was like out for like 10 or 15 minutes and I was going to come back and do it again. And they're looking at me and I was like white and they're like, they wouldn't let me come back. It sucked.
Oh, dude.
And of course, my marketing brain, like 3 hours later, I'm like, I call them back and I'm like, hey, make sure you save that tape. like save that video, because what I was going to do was create a speech about this, play that, and everyone's listening to it going, this is amazing. And then they're like, what happened? I'm like, this is what happened. Everything I was preaching in there was bullshit. I'm selling it to you and I didn't sell it to myself. And they erased the tape. They went right over it. They went right back and recorded over it. I'm like, no, because that was more priceless than a perfectly done tape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's one thing I got to commend you on, Scott. And this is no bullshit. People who know me out in Kick-Ass Nation, they know I don't blow smoke up anybody's ass. That is why I dig you, dude. Is that the fact that, because I was the same way. I was a perfectionist. I was going to save the world. Everything had to be right. And I'm like, okay, this is, everybody's going to be watching and And then I met Glenn Morshower. You've seen me on the panels with him lately, and he just walks out in the middle of an audience. I watched him the first time. He walks out in front of 600 people, and they're at an event, and he walks out and he just looks around and he goes, do you guys mind if I just talk about what comes out the top of my head? And I'm like, I swear to God, I went, fuck, this is going to be a shitty speaker. Doesn't even prepare, doesn't have nothing, doesn't know what his audience is about, what? Because me, I'm like, plan A, plan B, plan C. I've got the PowerPoint in my brain. I've got everything going. It's going to be perfect. I'm going to say everything. And he walks out and he just starts talking. He's like, I was thinking today. And then he just starts going, just in flow. And people start feeling the fact that he's not going to come out there like all the other speakers are like, hey, ladies and gentlemen, I got the package for you. It's only $9.97. And in an hour, I'm going to pressure you the fuck to buy it because you're going to be great like me. And I'm not saying that for all the speakers out there I know who might be watching this, but it might be you. Anyways, that's kind of why I got on that speaker circuit a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, just be yourself. But I think that's brilliant how you said that, because most people would be like first I thought, oh fuck, a TED Talk, that's so rad. But that's the quality of the person that you are that says, you know what, I'd rather have the quote unquote failure to be able to say, listen, this is how iron sharpens iron. This is how I got strong. And this is how I realized I was full of shit, which I commend you on for saying, because I've had to say that so many times. That's what we need to do in this world. We need to, all of us, the people that are out there walking around worried about what other people are going to be saying and thinking and everything. When you come from flow and you come from heart, it's amazing. I get shocked. I think I was talking with you or somebody else was talking about, they were journaling, and I told them to journal. And they said, oh yeah, Chris, I started doing it. And they said, after the first 15 minutes, I was like, oh yeah, I watched TV today. And they're like, after the first 15 minutes, all of a sudden this stuff started flowing out of my brain that I didn't even know I was thinking. And I said, that's the beauty of journaling. And that's the gold, because when you sit down and look at it, like, okay, that's the core of why I'm messed up. That's the core of maybe why I'm not doing what I need to be doing in life. And let me redirect that to take that pain and take that leverage to make something great out of it. So it makes me a better person. I mean, I highly commend you for that, dude.
Yeah. And here's the deal. I mean, we can sit here, we've all played the game. I went to school, like you get the good grades, you get you're a great athlete, you get your touchdowns, you hit your 3-pointers, you play sports in college, you get the girl, and everyone's like, wow, I want to be like him. Who cares? Like, how far does that take you? Like, so on your deathbed, everyone wanted to be like you. I would much rather people find the energy that I'm sharing and become that and never even remember my name. Like, when I'm working with somebody or I meet somebody or I'm traveling or I'm in another country and I just sit and start having coffee with somebody and listen to their story and I somehow do something just to slightly energize them and watch them walk away a little brighter, that's all I want. And I think part of that is getting to the pinnacle of your perfection and saying, this is it. This is it. So wait a minute. So I did the college, I did the grad school, I got scholarships, I got my nice house, I got a lake house, I've got my stuff. I travel everywhere. All right. Like, that's it. And that's not it. That's the whole point. It's the extension of how do I take this and energize other people to have a beautiful existence, enjoy the journey. And here's an interesting piece too, that we can do a more in-depth talk on later. But, or do you even want to go here? It's up to you. Do you want to go somewhere a little?
Nah, go for it. Just flow, baby, flow.
So we were doing, I've got a good friend, Jeffrey Stukels, and we've been putting together a program that we started sharing, and it's essentially on what we really are as beings. So what is the universe? And the model that we've put together literally falls hand in hand with all religions, all spirituality, and it's just a way for you to view how your energy is here in this existence. And so we pull from a lot of other mindsets and thought processes, but in a nutshell, we're all one system. And so being part of this one system, this includes every sentient being, everything in the universe, all dark matter, light matter, everything. So we're all of that, experiencing this existence or just part of eternity from this individual node. So imagine this, and this is what I would love to suggest to people to think about. Excuse me. So right now, you're sitting looking from right here, and you're experiencing everything from out in front of you. So imagine if you're feeling everything. So you take in the world around you. You see the bad things happening, the good things happening. So all those emotions get housed in here. That's potential for disease, right? Imagine if you started to look from back here, from observer, and you just watched your vehicle existing. So imagine this now. Imagine that you're driving your vehicle, Scott, down the street. And let's say that currently, every time I see something negative, I house it. I take all the negative into me. So imagine, like, instead of using that emotion as gasoline or as fuel, I'm compartmentalizing it. So compartmentalizing would be like sludge in the engine. So eventually I'm not functioning right. But imagine if behind it, I'm just filling up with gas, and anytime I feel an emotion or I feel something, I just let it flow through me. So I want to cry. I'm a man, though. I can't cry, right? Freaking cry. Just cry. But don't stop halfway through and go, oh, I shouldn't be doing this on you. Just cry. Cry it all the way out. Get rid of the sludge. Then when the next emotion comes in of joy because your kid did something good, feel it all the way through till there's total exhaustion in that joy. When you're angry, get pissed. Feel the whole damn thing. And sit here and watch the interaction of that emotion. And you start to really realize that self is everything. So if I make a decision right now, let's just say I decide what I want to get for fast food or whatever. And typically I would go to the same place, but they use styrofoam containers. And I know that that's not good for the environment. Once I start saying, wait, this is bigger self, I would never do that because I don't want to hurt these animals, or it goes on and on. Get back here, look at yourself from back here and see self in a bigger sense. Almost every single one of these issues that people are facing right now will slowly go away. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And explain more about that. Go with that.
So if we're sitting here right now with self, okay, so let's just use like everything that we've got right now in the country. We've got one group saying that the economy needs to come back, and one group saying we've got to just stay out of work because we've got to take care of especially the elderly people, anybody who might die of COVID-19, right? And so there's a dichotomy there instead of just saying, what's the greater good for all? So don't go from my, political basis and say, hey, I'm a Trump supporter or whatever. I didn't say that, by the way. I'm just saying if I was. Want to clarify that.
I'd still like you.
I wouldn't be saying the things that I'm saying. So let's just say, so whatever party you follow, whatever religion, whatever it is, imagine if you step back and you say, every decision that I make is for the greater good of everything. Now the variables completely change. So let's really ask that question. How quickly do we open the country back up to business? Now, if I'm looking of all humanity and all existence, then I realize we're just a finite blip. So what I start thinking is, well, first and foremost, let's let this disease play through so we flatten the curve and let that go first. We do need to be creative and simultaneously boosting the economy. So there's a hybrid of everything everybody's saying. But the bigger picture is, if we start to fall in love with self, then self is going to take care of itself. But when I'm sitting here thinking, how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to take care of myself? How am I going to do this? And listen, I get it. If I was 20 years old and I have nothing and I'm like, I'm screwed, I get it. I'm going to be really pissed off and I'm going to go into a selfish place. But that's the biggest. You really want to try to do something? You're listening to this and you say, but I have no money. You don't understand my situation. You're absolutely correct. I don't understand the situation in your node. Try stepping back and saying, what can I do for the greater good of all existence? Follow the love model. I will guarantee you magic starts to happen. And the magic that you think is magic is nothing more than you coming into your own brilliance. It's not magic. You are the magic. Yep. And people have lived in that 400,000th of a percent for so long that they're sitting here going, you don't know me. I'm not that smart. I can't do this. Listen, we all come from the same superconscious. You have total understanding of everything in the universe living inside of you, and you just don't realize it yet. And so that's what you and I are going to do. We're going to start pushing people into realizing it. You on with that? Can we do that?
Oh, hell yeah, dude. I'm fired up. I am fired up. It's so funny because what you're talking about is those self-imposed limitations. And I think about, I
Yeah.
know you've seen the meme where it shows the elephant tied to a white picnic.
Yeah. The little, yeah,
And you're
yeah.
like, okay, your self-imposed limitations. It's funny. Glenn Morshower's on here. Glenn, thank you so much, buddy, for being here. Love Glenn. And Glenn tells a story, actually, and I'm not going to tell a story because even my family asked me to tell a story about Gil. I'm not going to tell a story about Gil because that story about Gil that Glenn Morshower has shared in the streams that we did last week is just a phenomenal example of, being in a space that you're so comfortable with, and that's all you know, but then being placed. And actually, you're not being placed as a human, you're being placed in this consciousness, like you just said, that's awareness. It's like, oh, wait. And somebody asked me the other day, it was funny. I was being interviewed not the other day, a couple of weeks ago, I was being interviewed for a podcast, and they said, we were talking about feelings and emotions and gratifications and stuff like that. And I said, you know what? One of the most amazing gifts for me as a coach, as a personal development person, whatever you want to call it, as a soul, when I say something in such a way that people kind of go, and then they, some way of form or another, they say, oh, I'm the one that's causing this problem. I'm the one that's doing these things to myself. And I said, that's why I tell you, you're only limited by the parameters of your own mind. If your parameters of your own mind are based on the opinions and the assumptions and the conditioning of those people in your life from 0 to 5, then guess what? Yeah, you're going to be pretty fucked up. But as soon as you kind of go, wait a minute, there's books. I can read a book. I can learn. I can grow. I mean, I've shared that the books I've read in the last 2 years, courtesy of my coach, Sally Anderson, who's phenomenal, that it's opened my mind to so much. We were talking about just a few minutes ago. It's like you're planning on having your beliefs and everything shaken today. That's the magic of it. The question I have for you, Scott, and I've been challenging people with this, is that I've heard some people say lately, like, oh, I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing the best I can. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that for me, and this is the God's honest truth, talk about transparency, I was doing stuff, working a full-time job, doing all these things, coaching, speaking, trying to do everything. And to the end of the day, I was like, God, I'm not getting the results I want. This should be moving. I should have more subscribers, blah, blah, blah. And I started getting down. And I'm like, well, I did the best I could. And then I stopped. I literally stopped. I was standing right by my dresser. I remember it vividly. And I stopped. I'm like, Chris, that was not your best. If that was your best, you suck. Because if you're best, and I think about it this way, if somebody walked up to me and said, okay, here's a 9mm, and I'm going to put it to your son's face. And if you don't do your best in the next week, then I'm going to pull the trigger. That is leverage. That is an amazing opportunity for us to do our best. What's your thoughts on people when they say they did their best, and what ways do you have to encourage people to go past what they think their best is?
That's an awesome question. And I'm glad I didn't hear that before, because I love to be put on the spot. It's so much more fun.
So do I. Yeah.
I don't want to prepare it, because if I prepare it, it's too canned. So
we're just going with the flow. That's all we're doing.
Yeah. And to your point about the speaker who got on stage and did that, that's what I've become too, where I just I change on a dime and start saying things. But so I think the best answer to that question is we got to be careful with something too, because if we say that, did you do your best? Think of what happened to me. All right. So if you go at 100% and you go till burnout, you might say that's your best. Okay. But if I literally go 100%, I'm going to fail. I'm going to black out on stage at a TED Talk, and I'm going to need recovery time. So there's actually a balance, and I can't tell you what that is for you. But here's how I can tell when I'm being honest with myself. When I literally take note of the thoughts that are coming through my mind. And so when those negative thoughts are coming in, or the voices saying that I can't do this or I can't do that, and they're part of that old identity that wasn't created by me, but was created for me. When I start to take note of those things and I'm able to be conscious of those and move those aside and still keep my energy at a high level, that's where I would say I'm doing my best. Now, to your point, like with the gun to the head, I could go to a next level, but how long can I sustain that? So I would ask yourself a few questions. First of all, are you energized to a point that you would say is sustainable? So, sustainable energy, and I don't know that we're all there. Secondly, are you doing these things and still maintaining connection? So in other words, I'm loving myself enough to be a good speaker, coach, teacher, but am I still there for those people who are part of my foundation, my support system? Is my wife happy? Is my daughter feel that we're connecting enough? Those are also important. And I would probably say, that the final thing I would want everybody to do, and this is probably more important than any of that when it comes down to it, are you having fun? I mean, you're sitting here in this existence, and if everything's just stress and stress and stress and tolling you, then to that answer that we asked, back when we were talking about, what were we saying? We were talking about the whole point is make sure you're enjoying your life. That journey, the work, we were talking about the work. So we're sitting here saying, when you put the work in, I know that you don't think the work and fun can go hand in hand, but let me say this. Let's say that I'm doing inner work because my relationship's going to be better. So I do the work, and then within some of that work, with something new shifts, and I'm a better person, and I can enjoy a dinner with my wife with some of the newfound development that I've got. Fun will come with that. So there's got to be fun interacted in everything. The minute the fun goes out of it, I think it's over. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's what I've actually had to coach people who lived life too much on that end. I mean, everything was fun. Everything was, if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. It's like, okay, well, you have to bridge that. You have to change your perspective to say, okay, self-improvement, self-growth, the journey of discovering the capacity of the person that you could really truly become if you get out of your own way. Oh, I got to remember that one. Free flow, baby, free flow.
That's why it's on tape. It's recorded.
Yeah. That you got to make that fun. You have to make that an interesting experiment. Like I've had so many people that have hired me for weight loss. Like, oh, Chris, I just don't feel like doing it. I'm not excited about it. I'm like, are you excited about living longer? Do you want to play with your grandkids? Do you want to be active? Do you want to sit there and lay in a hospital bed when you're 65 years old and look back, man, I should have ate some broccoli and worked out and drank water. Yeah, you have to look at it, and it's not fun. I mean, I do a lot of stuff that I sit there and look at. I'm like, this is hard work, and this is challenging, and this takes, my soul and everything else, but it's fun. It's rewarding. It's exciting. You get to, I love picking apart people's brains and learning how they work and seeing and sharing people's brains like yours with other people and just giving that expansive thing. Because I think you're right. And you nailed something previous, what you were saying is that I think the point is the more people we positively impact through situations like these and what we do in our normal day-to-day lives, you start having more people instead of focusing on the news and the media and all the crap they can't control. Instead, you open a book, you sit down and you listen to some tapes or whatever it might be, and you start opening, expanding your mind. You could be like me 8 years ago, who was yelling at the television set at 11 o'clock at night. God damn it, what are you guys doing? You Congress people, you have your heads up, and I'm like, okay, why is it 11 o'clock at night? Why is my blood pressure 190/90? And what am I going to do? Well, how is this going to, what contribution am I making? Yeah, with my speaking and everything, I'm doing that. But I literally chose at that point, I'm like, I'm not going to follow news. I'm not going to follow politics anymore. And my friends that I would debate and banter with, they're like, oh yeah, you're just putting your head in the sand. I'm like, my head is not in the sand. My head is in the place where it needs to be, which is focused on myself, my family, my community, and making the world a better place for who I was and what I did while I was here. That's the way I look at it.
I agree. I agree. But you know what's funny? Like I'm still doing the politics thing sometime, and I try to figure out how much do you go in and out of that. And we talked about it the other day. Sometimes you just kind of like put your toe in it and come back. But does it really serve anything? I'm not sure. I look at it this way: shine your light bright, transfer that energy to others, create a great network of, I wouldn't say like-minded people. I like to say like-minded people. I think I'd want to change that to, I say like-minded all the time, like energy people. Yeah. Because like-minded might mean I don't want this confirmation bias from everybody else. I want contrarians in my group, as long as they're thinking with the same sense of integrity. So maybe like energized, like integrity, that's important to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I think that says it. And then also having the focus and having the belief. I mean, like you and I talked about a couple of days ago, the whole politics thing. It's like, if you think for a second, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls out there watching this, probably not boys and girls, anything under 10 years old, I hope. If you should just ask yourself this question, I want to know if you agree about this, Scott, is that before you contribute something, whether it's in a conversation with somebody else, with a group or online, I sit there and I think, for the most part, is this going to contribute positively to the ongoing discussion that's going to help enlighten people or entertain people, make them laugh, whatever it might be? Every once in a while, I will pose a question that is controversial just for the fact I want to see what people's thoughts processes are, and actually not necessarily make it a game of myself, but to see if I can effectively use my words, not even my tone of voice or anything else, if I could just use my written words to get people to think just a little bit differently about what they did. And so I've been doing that. I told you this. I've been going on people's political posts where they're saying, oh, see, there's the Democrats, they don't want to do, there's this and there's this and there's this. And I just simply ask the simple question, what is your hope What do you want to gain by posting this? What is it that you want? You obviously have something you want to gain. You want to show that you have something to say. You want to show that you're with this group. What is it you want to do? And how do you think that's going to benefit everybody else, aside from gathering the wagons and gathering the trains? And I can tell you, Scott, I probably did it 10 times and not a single person has ever answered me. All they've done, their tribe gets on there and jumps on me and calls me this and calls me that. And I'm like, and I don't even go to the dark place I can go to and tell them all to go fuck themselves sideways, tremendously and very eloquently. I sat there and said, hey, listen, I really appreciate the fact that you just showed me the type of person that you are, but I wasn't really interested in that. I was interested, and I just do it professionally. And it's just like, people are getting frustrated. And the more I'm like professional and eloquent and like really trying to get to the heart of the matter and being nice, the madder they get. And I just sit there and go, yeah.
I think these are a very simple answer. And I think why you or I or people like us with the same energy, same integrity, or at least what we're trying to perceive, and is you've got two groups of people. You've got your certainty and your uncertainty. And people want to run back to their illusion of certainty. It's not even certainty. It just aligns with their identity. So if somebody wants to say, you don't understand, and this is what we need, they've got the illusion that righteousness or them being right is certainty. So the minute they're not right, that pulls them into a world of uncertainty. So their feet are off the ground. They're not grounded. People who really, really, really want to exist and really understand what living is want to flow. We want to get into that flow. We want to get out of beta brain waves. We want to go into alpha. We want to start to be able to exist in delta while we're living. We want to go into that meditative state and be like, I am one with everything. And so the people who just want to sit in beta and say, I'm right, you're wrong, they're in stress waves. There's no way to get out of that until and this is back to your question right back in the beginning, where it's funny how everything always weaves in. What are the parents doing? The parents are stuck in beta. We don't have enough money to put our kids through school. He's working too. He's cheating on me. She's doing this. She's a nag. My son's not doing well in school. I'm pissed off. They can't even comprehend how to take a deep breath, meditate for a moment, and get out of beta. Beta's giving them cortisol. They're building up. They're gaining weight. They don't like looking in the mirror. The whole thing goes to hell. And this could all be healed by coming in and going. And when I say all healed, I shouldn't say everything fixed in the moment. The process would shift and the journey would shift. Step back here and say, this node is a really difficult node to drive. So we'll call it a vehicle. I got a crappy car. I got a lemon. You got two choices. This is the one of your existence. Do I want to say this sucks and just keep beating it up even more? Or do I want to say, how can I better take care of this to enjoy the best ride I can in this journey? And most people take the former. And that's where we're at. And you see how many people have come from nothing and are multimillionaires or great athletes or inventors or dancers. Those are the people who said, yeah, this is an old beat up VW Beetle, but over time I can buy new tires and maybe I can put the engine in the front and have more horsepower. And they start doing new things. So you sit here and say, I only have a 9 and a 2. This is a crappy hand. I'm not playing. The smart person says, let's do this. And then everyone else folds. And that's what we're missing, this certainty versus uncertainty. How do we get those people who are stuck in certainty and beta to get into creative and shift mindset? Be the light, I guess. That's all we can do.
Be the light. Glenn says it grants everyone their own uniqueness. I teach my actors they must practice same pageness with their scene partners. Yeah, I mean, we are all unique, and I think that is such a great sharing, Glenn. Thank you. Is that so many people are trying to be something they're not. Yeah. I mean, I went through that imposter syndrome. Okay, I'm going to be this person, or I'm going to say these things to make these people like me, or I'm not going to swear because I don't want to offend anybody and all this other stuff. But we're all unique. And that's one thing people have been reaching out to me this week and just, sad and whatever. I'm like, just be you, just rock who you are. This is your time to shine. And whatever it is, if you've been into music, play your music and become a musician, become an artist, do whatever you got to do and reset. Don't worry about all the stuff that you were in. This is a great opportunity to get out of yesterday and get into tomorrow. What suggestions do you have for people who are listening who, like you said, are in that beta wave? That's one question. But my first question before that is there a way you can just kind of go through the different alpha, beta, theta, and just kind of describe what they are just for people who are watching right now?
Sure. So I'll go through that. So the beta waves, which is what we're living mostly in life. Like, I'll give you a few examples. Pretend that we're in my classroom right now. Okay. So I'm teaching in my classroom. As I'm teaching, and I'm just going through some notes and saying, hey, listen to this story. Here's a business that worked or didn't. The students are in what I would call like a lower level beta. So they're in a stress wave, but it's not really tolling. It's not killing them by any means. It's making them focus and it's allowing them to engage. Let's say all of a sudden I say, surprise quiz. Now they might go into a mid-level beta and they're a little more stressed going, oh, damn it, I didn't study. Oh, hurry up. And so they got 2 seconds to look at stuff before they write down the answers. Let's say I tell everybody that everyone flunked the test. I'm going to give you another chance to take it right this second. And if you don't pass, you automatically have to drop the class. Now they move into a high-level beta where they're super stressed. They're not feeling good. This is where if we sit in this too long, it can affect our health. So let's pretend we're 5 minutes left in a football game or 5 seconds left and it's on the 20-yard line and they're going to throw a fade to the corner and catch a touchdown. If that's the case, I want to be in high-level beta because I want to be so hyper-focused, but I want to get out of it quickly, okay? When I shift into alpha waves, what happens is I go into more of a creative state, and in that creative space, there's less stress. So what I do with my students is I'm constantly doing stuff like you're saying. I'll swear, I'll say a stupid story, or I'll say something funny to get them kind of out of that stress space. And then I have them teach things back to me. So I force them into creative and I say, well, how could you do that differently? Well, I like that, but tell me more. And so we're getting them to learn to shift from wave to wave so they won't be in that high level beta indefinitely. Now, if you really want to be super challenging right before you go to bed at night, that's when you transition into theta. You kind of like feeling like, oh, I'm about to go to sleep and there's that tired feeling. From there, you drift into delta, and in that delta wave space, that's where you're literally tapped into your super conscious. And so at that space, there's people who drift into that in the real world. Like I might be sitting here right now and all of a sudden have moments where I'm fully one with the universe and I feel like I'm in this massive mainframe computer. I've been meditating a lot and I've tapped into that space sometime and I'm not fully comfortable with it. Like one of the things that scared me the other night is I could feel that coming while I was having dinner. And I don't share this with everybody either. I was having dinner and all of a sudden I didn't feel like I could talk. And I started drift because I was tired, but I was thinking and I could feel myself tapping into somebody. And my wife's like, are you okay? Should I call the doctor? And I just go, I'm good. And my daughter's looking at me and I'm like, and so then after they're like, what were you feeling? I'm like, I felt connected to everything. And I've been practicing that, trying to drift into that. So they're looking at me like I'm batshit crazy. And now my daughter is calling me Mr. Everything, which is great. It's funny. But to the point is I've been practicing this. I've been reading it. I've got a guy I got to introduce you out in the LA area who teaches some incredible meditation, which has helped me to get to this space. But I don't want to be driving down the street in that. So this is literally, think of this. We've evolved to be in the waves we're in so we can manage existence. Imagine a dinosaur chasing you. All of a sudden, I'm like, I am everything. I'm dead, right? Like I'm dead. Like you don't want that to happen to you. So we've evolved over time so that we sit in these waves. All the power lies in these other places. We've just got to figure out how do we tap into that through meditation? How do we integrate? How do we pull that information? How do we strengthen what we are and become more amazing? That's where it gets really difficult, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. I can imagine. I totally imagine because you could actually kind of just get, at least for me, from my perspective, having the brain that I have, I could see myself going into so many rabbit holes and like, okay, what's that about? And what's that about? And what's this feeling about? Let me experience this. Cause I would want to experience it because I tell people that I go through my own journeys, my own valleys, my own peaks, and I go through them, A, because I need to experience them and grow, but B is the fact that I can go through those experiences and come back out on the top and sit there and say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here's what I just did and here's how I got through it. Here's how you could do it and kind of bring people along with that. Is that the way you find to process it all? Or do you have a different way of processing that on your own?
So that's a really good question too. And I'm just actually texting. I'm supposed to get on another, I've got another call with that guy. There's the rocket scientist in 2 minutes. So I just told him, hey, there 5 minutes.
No problem. We'll wrap up.
No. I mean, we want to do this all day long. This is the best. I love going from one to the other. I think it's great. We got an hour.
Link and we'll get the rocket scientist on here.
Let's do it. Let's just jump on one. So this is great. I'll tell you about this guy real quick and we can do another one. Sure. So he's this guy, we've been connecting through Facebook, through positivity, where we question each other and we say, what do you think of that? What do you think of that? I look at this guy's resume essentially on Facebook. He graduated from Stanford undergrad, went to work for NASA. Then he got another master's in like aeronautical engineering or space, whatever it is, whatever rocket scientists are. he gets into that. He ends up getting out of that. Then he opens up one company. Then he opens up another company, totally different industries. Now he just opened up a school because he understands that education is everything. And so I just happened to see his comments thinking this is just a relatively intelligent guy. I need to go gear my brain to get ready for this guy because I've got a couple degrees, but I'm looking at his and I'm like, this is one of those where, okay, the voices started talking, go, you're not smart enough. And I'm sure I'll be fine. Maybe we'll see. But the guy's a brilliant human being and somebody that we need to get on here too once I connect with him by phone.
Oh, definitely. I want to highlight and thank you for sharing that. I know you got to get going. Glenn says, sadly, the vast majority of folks allow us to see what I call their presentational self. Yep. They don't share who they really are. They share who they want you to think they are. And in Texas, we call that term for it's called bullshit.
Glenn, I'm in Austin. I agree with you. It's complete bullshit. And you know what's funny? 2 words that I've really grown to fall in love with, and that's transparency and vulnerability. And as a man, I'll tell any guy, dude, cry if you feel like you're gonna cry. You don't need that toxic masculinity. Like I see guys getting caught up in the idea of is being a man being tough and being hard, and they always think they gotta like show like this toughness. And listen, I grew up in Boston, and I grew up in a blue collar town just north of Boston. Everything was about getting in fights and how tough you are and how many sports you play. And at the end of the day, that did not serve me well at all because I had to unlearn so much to remove old identity to get to that vulnerability, transparency place. But I'm so glad for those lessons because now it's allowed me to get to where I am now.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, Scott. Well, I know you got to run, so tell everybody where they can get a hold of you, and then I'll put the information up in the comment sections as well. And then, of course, you and I are going to continue these conversations and continue working together in our united goal of bringing people together in the world and sharing this kind of stuff. So, thank you again for jumping on here with me. Totally really cool. But where can people get a hold of you? Where can they learn more about Go Love Now and everything else?
So Go Love Now has evolved because it was so difficult to bring it into schools, and I did not want to leave kids hanging with their emotions. I've started to bring it into corporate settings and help rebuild cultures. So bring in a culture of love, and when you really look at what that looks like, it's amazing. We've done it with a bunch of small businesses, and it's been incredible. So now I'm trying to escalate that and get businesses 100 people or less. I don't want to take it to the biggest level. Still, I have like a lot of good examples. So you can go to Go Love Now. And it's just golovenow.com. On Facebook, it's /Go Love Now, Go Love Now movement on Instagram, and Go Love Now on Twitter.
Awesome. We will definitely be able to share that out. And I'm passionate about kids, whatever I can do to help. I can even talk for 30 minutes without cussing. I've done that before.
People don't believe I can because I'm from Boston and I've learned to do it really well. But if I just let go 2 beers in and put me with my friends, dude, it's podcasts, drinking beers, and we are fucking messed up.
Now you're talking like my guy Ted, my favorite movie where Mark Wahlberg is totally talking with a Boston accent. I'm like, I love that movie, but I'm like, just shut up. That accent. Scott, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time and making the time and sharing your heart and your soul with us. And go talk to that rocket scientist and just be you, man. There's 7 billion in the people on the planet, and if that rocket scientist goes, oh, he's not smart enough, then say, hey, welcome, wish you well, good luck, but I doubt that. I seriously doubt that.
The smartest people know this. They don't know everything, and we all know this. It's always better to be the stupidest person in the room than the smartest person because you learn nothing. So I don't care. If he's smarter than me, that's great. That means twice I learned new stuff today. So I'm all happy with that.
Awesome. Well, you guys, thank you guys for being here. We'll wrap that up today unless there's any questions or
love you all.
But I can tell you guys that I'll be back later on here 8:00 tonight with a buddy of mine named Chad. He hit me up the other day and he's like, let's do something fun. And I was like, okay, let's do something fun. He's like, let's do happy hour. Let's do one of your live things. Let's do happy hour and let's call it uncensored motivation. Because I think maybe he wants to have a little fun with that too, because I just go up there and say, hey, here's the shit. Here's what you do. And he's like, yeah, let's have a couple of drinks and do uncensored motivation. I'm like, let's go for it. Let's do it. So I will be back here at 8:00. Scott and I will be back definitely to bring you guys more information on how you can move your soul, move your heart, move your brain, and get different results. This is the Raw and Unscripted Show. I thank you guys so much for being here. I love you guys. Kick-Ass Nation, Misfits for Life. Scott, I'll be talking to you soon. And
love you guys.
Love you guys. Peace out.